Look, the fact is there were two violations. One, there were negotiations going on, and at the time of negotiations, you decide to attack. So A, it's an unprovoked attack, and B, it's an attack while negotiations are going on. So it's a breach of faith.
This is not only just immoral, but it's also illegal war. It was unprovoked war. Iran didn't instigate it.
Look, the fact is there were two violations. One, there were negotiations going on, and at the time of negotiations, you decide to attack. So A, it's an unprovoked attack, and B, it's an attack while negotiations are going on. So it's a breach of faith. And ironically, as information now comes out from various other channels, that the decision to attack Iran was taken in the last week of December 2025. It was supposed to be held in January, but the uprising did not create the right results, so they postponed it by a little while. But the decision to attack Iran was already taken. Clearly, this entire discussion to work out a peace agreement was just a ruse to lower the guard of Iran and then attack it. So A, it was subterfuge, B, it was unprovoked, and C, it happened when discussions were on. All the three violations have taken place here. Conventionally, and there's a law for that also, that you will not attack leaders of the country, you will not attack negotiators. The negotiator enjoys diplomatic immunity. And at a time, and ironically, it had so happened that Oman, which was an intermediary while discussions are going on, Oman went and told USA that we've reached a breakthrough and now all the terms of agreement can be worked out. I think we can go ahead. And immediately after Oman said this, they decided to go and attack. Obviously, America and Israel did not want an agreement. Now, this is not the first time America has done this. Remember 1990, when Russia said we are ready to become a market economy. But to become a market economy, we need funds. And Jeffrey Sachs prepared the documentation. He was an advisor to Russia. And Gorbachev gave Jeffrey Sachs the mandate to prepare the documentation, took it to the IMF. There was no response to IMF. Then when he spoke, they said, you better talk to the White House. He went and talked to the White House, and they were told, we want Russia to break up. We do not want to help them. So to call Russia dictatorial is a lie again, because when they wanted to become a market economy, the US prevented it. When the US does not want something, it pretends to be holy and say, yes, we're ready to, you should do this. But actually, their plans are quite different to what they say. And that's why this time, there's a total breach of faith. This is not the first time there's a breach of faith. Last time when negotiations were on, Israel went in with the drones and killed about 40 top military and heads of scientific departments through drone attacks. Even earlier, when negotiations were going on with Hamas on how to prevent further escalation and violence, Haniyeh was a man who was a negotiator, and he was sitting in Iran, in Tehran in a hotel, and a drone attack took place, and he was killed and decapitated there. Israel and USA have done this again and again and again. They've broken every convention. They've broken every norm. They've killed negotiators, and they've attacked when negotiations are already underway. And that is why this time, 2 days ago, when USA panicked at what had happened, because it didn't expect a consolidation of votes, of consolidation of support for the Ayatollah, approached Italy and asked Italy to broker a peace deal between Iran and the US and Israel. And Iran rightly said, no way, we don't want to talk to USA anymore. There's been a total breach of faith. I don't see how that can be mended.
It was instigated by an external country. And Iran is now retaliating. Now, at the same time, if you ask somebody from a Western um, political standpoint, they will say that it is a national security issue of United States, and Iran is trying to attack United States, and that's why this has happened. Unfortunately, their claim doesn't have any supporting details. They said it was for terrorism, and Iran is today is labeled globally as a terrorist state. But I think time has come for the sane people and the sane countries to ask a question as to how do they define who is terrorist and who is not terrorist, and who gets to live, who gets to die, who gets to rule, who gets sidelined. Those kind of questions are very important at this point of time, because those those who makes rule, and they are always going to see what benefits them. They're not interested in anything else. They're not interested in human rights. They're not interested in other countries' sovereign rights. They're not interested in other people's lives. They're interested in their profit, their agenda, their dominance, their power, and their control. So, unfortunately, this particular war that President Trump has started without the consensus of even the American people at home, this is going to be a catastrophic situation for America also. You have seen how Iran is retaliating. And back and forth, all these inconsistent rhetorics that is coming out from the Trump administration and also Trump supporters are extremely vilifying. They feel that they can do anything, anywhere, on anybody because their interest supersedes anybody else's lives.
This is not the first time Trump has done it. Trump believes that he has overarching powers, whether to charge tariffs, whether to kill people. Remember, he's killed people. He's killed Venezuelans on the high seas. When the normal thing is, if you suspect them, you bring them in for questioning. You don't shoot them. This is like the Wild West. Shoot first, ask questions later. And he did the same thing in Cuba. Trump's reaction was not a single American died. What about the 30 Cubans you killed? Are they not human beings? Trump believes that he can do what he wants. And it was finally the Supreme Court that had to step in and say, your powers to charge tariffs are illegal. You need Congress approval. And that is why even here, he went ahead and decided to attack Iran without Congress approval, which is why almost all congressmen have now gathered to impeach Trump. And this time it looks like the impeachment move may work. So Trump is facing two crises. If the impeachment move takes place, he is likely to lose and he may not be able to finish this full term. Two, his approval ratings are down to 25%. Just 2 weeks ago, they were 27%. They're falling day by day by day. So, if his approval ratings fall in the midterm election, if he loses one house, it's bad. If he loses both the houses, he becomes a lame duck president with no powers at all. And that is the time when, without powers, all the cases that are pending against him of criminal use, of killing, of trafficking underage girls, of sleeping with underage girls, all those documents come out little by little by little. And like his income tax returns, he is going to go behind bars, which is a privately Trump is believed to have said, I just cannot afford to lose these midterm elections. I'm finished. Trump is in trouble. He's in trouble because this war is not going to be won. He's in trouble because he has overstepped his authority and has gone to war without congressional authority. Unfortunately, it'll be Vance. He's the vice president who automatically steps into place. And Vance is as much of a hardliner because he owes his position to the Israel lobby.
If there's one country which actually has an opportunity today, it is India. I think India has the opportunity to bring some peace to the world because I hope, India still have the Vedic Hindu foundation, which is peaceful. You live and let other live too. But that's not what we see from Abrahamic ideology standpoint. And that's where I think we have to have a conversation, and a global conversation, and a really serious conversation for all of us. Because certain ideology, certain dogmatic practices actually allow them to eliminate others who doesn't toe the line of their whatever they think is right. So America, this point of time, is an extension of what we have seen in European colonialism. If East India Company, well, it's not just the Britain, but the Dutch, the Portuguese, the Swedish, and etc., which came to India. Today, these American corporations are West India Company. That's how I define it. Because what do you think the Starlink is going to do in India? What do you think the Facebooks, the Google and the Amazons, the Microsofts are doing in India? They're obviously getting talent, which is great. But at the end of the day, when those same people are attacked in America, because American corporations actually brought them over here. They're vilified. People like us are vilified in America today. They say that we are filthy, we are scam stars, we are fraudsters, we are primitive, we worship thousands of gods, we somehow are savages, uncivilized, we shouldn't be even here. But they forget the fact that their companies are the one who actually got people like us here. Now, if Indian government and the embassy and the institutions like that don't bring up this particular issue when they're discussing about trade and discussing about the economic ties, or buying some goods or so, transportation or whatever it is, if you're not discussing this issue, cultural issue, the difference of culture and how we are, then how is this partnership going to work out in the long run? I don't know. But coming from perspective of just a Indian born American citizen, I'm getting flack from the Westerners, the white Christian supremacist, that my standpoint to be an American, I actually have to align with the wars. I actually have to hate my country. I actually have to trash my religion and assimilate here and keep my head down and say thank you to them for them to even give me a space to live here. This is what is it if it is not slavery? Tell me.
International law is dead. And Trump has said that it doesn't listen to anyone except his conscience. He doesn't care for any laws. When the US breaks laws, every other country can also break laws. Sadly, the EU did not object in time. When Venezuela was attacked, the EU kept quiet. It is only when Greenland was attacked that the EU got up. The EU's ambivalence has made Trump more powerful. But now things are changing. Every US asset in the Gulf region is being attacked. And Iran has gone around to explain to the heads of state of each of the Middle East countries that, look, we're not against you. We are only attacking US assets because we think the US is not required in the Middle East. Suddenly, all the Arab states are beginning to murmur, and they're saying, yes, the US must leave the Middle East. It has not been articulated, but suddenly there's a quit Middle East movement that is gaining momentum. USA suddenly finds itself unwanted. And look at the assets that have been bombed. Qatar shut down its LNG facilities, which means India, piped gas and cylinders may suffer a shortage very soon because LNG, 80% of LNG comes to Qatar. Why was Qatar bombed? Because Qatar is a partner with Chevron, which is a US company. Everywhere where USA directly or indirectly got money from its oil and gas fields, those have been attacked. So that USA's cash flow is stopped. And US, which is already under $39 trillion of debt, and has to repay or roll over $9 trillion this year itself, is in big trouble. Big trouble because A, the extra money it hoped to get from tariffs has now been stopped by the Supreme Court, and B, because even the cash that it used to get, it or its companies used to get from the Middle East, even those are being stopped systematically. The only country that is grinning from year to year is Russia. India is also going to start purchasing from Russia. But how? If the ships are not allowed, Russian discounted pricing will not be possible. And India foolishly cancelled it. So Russia will also not try anything. India, which used to get oil at $40, will now have to pay $100 or more. At that time, India's balance of payments go absolutely haywire. See inflation rising in India. So there's a crisis in America because of global price rises. There's a crisis because oil supplies will stop to everybody. China can manage because it's got a pipeline from Iran and from Russia. India is going to be hurt. Japan is going to be hurt. Korea is going to be hurt. And everyone is going to blame the US for this mess that has been created. India's big disastrous moment came when Modi went and started shaking hands and rubbing shoulders, lots of bonhomie with Netanyahu, who's a war criminal. Convicted war criminal, there's a warrant out for his arrest, and any of the 120 or odd countries who are signatories to ICJ can arrest him the second he steps into their territory. And Modi wanted to be seen with such a criminal? Two, by attacking the Ayatollah, Trump and Israel have converted a normal war into a religious war. Look at the frenzy that is taking place. He was a very, very respected religious leader. Pakistan's up in flames. The Shias are up in arms because their spiritual guru has been killed mercilessly. And the Sunnis are furious because they know that Israel is trying to dominate and become the hegemon in this part of the world. So both the Sunnis and the Shias have attacked the embassy. The embassy security staff killed 10 people. After that, the crowds have gone on a rampage and they're stopping schools, they're burning buses, they're burning everything in Pakistan. Ditto in Bahrain. And the first regime change may take place in Bahrain, where you have a large Shia population ruled by a Sunni leader, and they are on a rampage there also. When a religious war takes place, every American, every Jew will be an easy target for those people who blame them for killing their spiritual leader. This could be a crisis worse than 9/11. What happens to all the pipelines? What happens to all the things that we have? Well, first of all, a major casualty will be LNG supply stopping. As I said, 80% of LNG comes from Qatar. That's stopped. So all your gas plants, whether for factories or for power plants or for fertilizer units or even for domestic use, is going to be affected very soon once the reserves get over. Will the war get over soon? Hopefully, yes. For a simple reason. Trump has gone on record saying that this war will last 4 weeks, maybe even more. We are ready for it. But talk to military experts and they'll say, it can't go beyond 4 weeks because USA does not have the missiles or the ammunition to last more than 4 weeks. And Iran is sending out more drones so that more missiles get used up. My reckoning is that they will not have more than 3 weeks, after which there's no ammunition left. And you've got guns with other bullets. At that time, both Israel and USA will panic. At that stage of panic, there are only two answers. One is, out of desperation, Israel or America will use a nuclear option. If that is used, expect China and Russia to step in as well. Then you have a nuclear holocaust when nobody survives. And America knows that this is no option because ultimately Americans are money makers. They want to stay alive and enjoy the money that they've made. They're not like religious believers who are willing to attain martyrdom. Lastly, remember, the Ayatollah was not discovered because of intelligence as Trump claimed. He was sitting in his house. When people told him, please get into the protection, he said, until every Iranian can get protection, I don't need the protection. They said, okay, wear something to protect yourself. He said, can you protect all the other Iranians? I will be like other Iranians. And it's a very simple house, nothing fanciful about that. And he sat there. In a way, he knew he was 86. He was believed to have cancer. He said, my body is giving way. I'd rather die for a cause that will make Iran stronger. His wish has come true. He's become a martyr. And now Iran is more united than ever before. And the ghost of the Ayatollah is going to haunt both Israel and USA in the coming weeks, in the coming months. Whether Israel will survive is a big question mark.